This is BofC Live, the video and podcast series of Business of Cannabis. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com. Coming up on this BofC Live conversation, we connect with Justin Johnson. He is the CEO and founder of BudsFeed, a community for cannabis enthusiasts and those new to the sector as well. Enjoy this conversation, which was recorded live in New York in December 2021. This is Justin Johnson. Tell me BuzzFeed.
BuzzFeed.
We're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to talk BuzzFeed first.
Okay, cool. So, BuzzFeed was an idea I had several years back, but it's a community-powered platform for sharing cannabis-related products and services. And the intention when I created it was not to function so much as a publisher as much as a social platform, and giving entrepreneurs a place to sign up and share their new products. I'm really spent a lot of time in advertising and technology. I'm obsessed with innovation, so created a place where all of this great innovation happening in the cannabis industries can be shared.
Yeah, I'm intrigued by the innovation happening in cannabis too. You have a probably broader perspective because you're smarter than I do, but I just think like there's innovative companies doing really cool stuff all the time, partly because companies outside of cannabis don't want to enter it, and partly because there are unique needs in the cannabis industry that are unique, obviously. Like, is it both of those things that you're like, do you think it's both of those reasons why there's innovation happening all the time?
Yeah. I think, I don't think it's necessarily because people don't want to get in. I think what you're seeing is a lot of companies or people who are working for major like consumer packaged goods companies coming in. So if you look at like where we're at with extraction technology today, like we were making canola oil and all sorts of stuff for a very long time as a country, right? I worked with Unilever in the past. I've worked with Frito-Lay. Like I've seen this machinery being applied to like mass food production. Right. And so it's really exciting to see that stuff being applied at like a super high level corporate level when we think about extraction or agriculture. And then on the other side, I really believe that there's a cottage economy or a garage economy of cool startups, people that just had a really interesting idea, and we just don't have enough people in this industry to have thought about it yet. So everything from bongs to vaporizers to these massive extraction machines. There's just we're kind of making progress across. Or
even small extraction, like small processes that people are doing in their garage. They're trying to make it go from how to make bubble hash on my own to like do it at scale, which is a whole different thing.
Yeah, and that's been wild. Yeah, I have some friends up in Michigan at 42 Degrees Processing. They're the largest hydrocarbon extraction facility in the state, and to see these guys that were on the fringe of the legal market 10 years ago, they now run one of the most complex like scientific facilities in the state of Michigan, right?
They're not lost. The irony is not lost on them, I imagine.
Oh no, and they're brilliant. Like they actually have scientific backgrounds and degrees and stuff like that. They're very qualified to do it. It's just it's
applied science.
Yeah, it's just amazing too that like these people that are so skilled for so long. You think about like the botanists, right? The people that have been saving tissue cultures for like decades. It's like you literally have kept plants alive despite moving across the country, being rated, like all of these different things just because you love it so much. Right. And they're just now like being able to flex, right?
Yeah. It's awesome. I also think like people who, obviously the risk, but like we're honing their like edibles craft, like honing the best way to make gummies to save the flavor and to make it consistent throughout, and like to be able to move from facility to into storage into people's homes. Like that stuff is cool.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories that I learned, I think about a year and a half ago, the executive chef and founder of Bubby's, which is a very famous New York restaurant, he's the guy behind Azuka, which is, they've crystalline sugar, THC and CBD, right? So it's cool to see, that knowledge, whether it's culinary or whatever, being applied, and really just how knowledgeable those people are. it's kind of amazing when I have friends that will reach out to me because they have a family member or themselves. They're looking to maybe get into cannabis to help with health problems or to relax because they don't want to take pharmaceuticals anymore. And I refer them to some random person in Brooklyn, you know, who knows more about like, you know, versus a pharmacist or a doctor, you know. And it's just kind of like those people are starting to make that transition though into this kind of this mainstream world. It's acceptable now too. I think we've crossed the 50% threshold of like where the majority of people are like, yeah, okay, I'm cool with weed, you know.
Well, I actually want to talk about that because there is that threshold, and then there's the threshold, and we've been talking a lot while we've been in New York about the importance of New York and crossing that threshold, not only as a city or a state, but actually as a region, a country, and a world. And New York is the hub of that, I think, for a lot of different things. Like it has nothing, I mean, partly about cannabis, but like so much happens in New York that gets emulated somewhere else. And that could be about policy or about cannabis legalization or about anything. But there's something special about it happening in New York that has just major impact. I want to sort of get your thoughts, like having been close to it, understanding what's happening here, having seen it in other places, like, do you feel that that importance is happening here that'll have resonance well beyond the borders?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I grew up in Washington State. I spent a lot of time in Seattle. I felt like Seattle was the center of the universe for a very long time, like many people in Seattle. And for good reason. It's a beautiful city. I spent time in LA. I was there for about 4 years.
People there think it's the center of the universe too.
You know, and
I live in San Francisco, and people in there think it's the center.
Yeah, if you're in the entertainment business, you might be right. But I moved to New York to work in I've worked in advertising the majority of my career prior to getting into cannabis, and New York is just such a cultural hub. It has so much influence, and it's also a place where the community is so tight. And I chalk that up to literally physical constraints of the city, right? Like the richest man and the poorest man take the subway together to work. Right. And so there's a very strong kind of communal undertone to everything that happens in the city. And when something is happening here, a lot of people learn about it very quickly. And you can, you know, I tell people, like, if you look at a company like Uber, which despite certain setbacks is wildly successful, they started only in San Francisco and New York. And that's the only two cities they were in for a very long time. And they ran a multi-million-dollar business. So the city of New York has the power to, you know, make you very successful without having to go outside of it. So I feel like, yeah, it's influential, it's powerful, and the things that are happening here reverberate around the country. And that has a little bit to do with, you know, the presence of the media in New York and people that are in the media being a part of these other circles. But yeah, and I think New York is particularly special, and the way that they've approached the gray area is really special, right? Like we're in a time now, and you know, it always gets, as the government gets involved in anything, it just gets stickier and a little less exciting sometimes. But you know, we're looking at 2 years right now of just free for all.
Also, even on the street.
Oh yeah,
I just walked by a place that New York's first recreational cannabis lounge.
Was that on 8th?
Yeah.
On 8th Avenue? I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, so, I mean, the reality is if you can have up to 5 pounds in your private residence, you can have up to 3 ounces on your person, and you can have up to 6 plants in your house. Like, why would you even bother trying to bust someone? Because if they have under 5 pounds, like,
there's no penalty.
Game over, right?
Yeah.
And the selling of it, like, you're not hurting anyone. So it's been deprioritized, right? If there's a violent crime going on in New York and you're, you know, a police officer busting like a small, lounge operation where people are just hanging out and smoking
real risk.
Yeah, you know, then you're not doing your job, right? And so that's very, very unique, right? And especially when you contrast it against a place like California, where now the legal market is actually pushing to police the unregulated market. You know, we don't have that in New York yet. It's going to happen. It's going to get competitive. It's going to get dicey. But I got into the cannabis industry about 2.5 years ago. Right at the end of 2018 was when I started working on BudsFeed as just a newsletter, and started attending a lot of these events and stuff like that. And just, you can just see like drastically, like we used to have, you know, we'd get like, I won't name the venues. We'd get some amazing venues to like let us host these parties and stuff like that, and they were completely underground. And then, you know, what was it, 6 months ago, I did a party with the Happy Monkey guys at the Van Gogh exhibit, and they just won a Silver Clio award for the work, you know? So it's drastically changed. Like, we've always been very open about it, and it's always been communal. People have been surprisingly public on platforms like Instagram about it, but it's gone up a notch for sure.
Yeah, and it'll continue.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is the thing. I don't know what this period of time will have a name as we look back on it sort of historically, but
Yeah.
like the time between when the state said yes and the state implemented is like, well, the big money making time, I guess is what it really is for people in that.
Yeah.
In that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I hope the big money aspect of it, I hope what it does is it gives some of these folks who I'm friends with and some that I don't even know yet, I hope it gives them some of the backing, so when they do want to enter this legal, you know, we start talking about licenses and stuff like that, they can rely on themselves. They don't, you know, the biggest problem about New Jersey and New York legalization is you have to own real estate. And, you know, if getting a cannabis license wasn't impossible enough, if you don't have the resources, good luck buying a building in New York City, right?
Right.
Like, that's going to be 10 times the cost of the license, so.
Thorny issues.
Very thorny.
And it's why regulators and elected officials are hesitant to move quickly.
Yeah.
Even though they don't realize that moving slowly is giving
major advantages to the legacy market. And honestly, that cuts both ways though. Like, you know, the legacy market is definitely doing well. The culture component of it, like, we're alive and well. We're having a lot of fun out here in New York. But if you're Columbia Care or you're Curaleaf or any of these guys too, like, and you already have a medical dispensary here, they just you know, we didn't have flour. You couldn't buy flour in New York, and now you can.
Not pre-rolls though.
Not pre-rolls, but you can buy ground flour. You can make your own pre-rolls. But you know what I'm saying? Like, in the next 4 months, we have a government body now that can make those decisions. Say, oh yeah, let them do pre-rolls, let them do whatever. So those guys are also getting to expand their market. This is not a fact, but I'm going to state it almost as if it is one.
That's usually my job.
Yeah, we don't. You know, we had a very limited medical market, right? And people that work in it would tell you that. And a result was that nobody was getting their medical cards because you can get amazing product on the streets, right? And I bet you in the last 6 months you've had as many people sign up for a medical card as there were before to begin with. And the biggest reason for that is you can grow 5 plants in your house, like, or 6 plants now. So if you had a medical card, like, that might be the only reason you even go get one, you know?
Yeah, horticulture.
Yeah, exactly. Right, protection, right? And so I do think it's benefiting both sides. I think Curaleaf, Columbia Care, Cresco, all these guys that are in New York, Etain, a local woman-owned one here. I hope, you know, they are also taking advantage of this time to establish themselves.
Yeah. I want to talk about other things you do.
Okay.
BudsFeed. We talked about BudsFeed. Talk a little bit about Chill.
Okay. So it's kind of interesting when I'll give you a roundabout way of how we got to Chill. So, you know, BuzzFeed is this platform for sharing cannabis-related products and services. I don't do advertising. Honestly, people don't have the money at this stage in the industry in a lot of respects. It's also a very hard business with a lot of expectation. And so something I committed to very early on was I just want to help entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. Like, if I do nothing else, this platform is to help amplify those voices. And as a result, that'll create opportunities. So, you know, I've been writing the newsletter, like I said, since, 2018. One of the first 100 readers of that newsletter is an old coworker of mine, Charity Gonzalez. Out of the blue, I get an email, and she says, "Hey, I've been reading BuzzFeed since you started, and my brother reads it too. He is a major housewares manufacturer, and he has an idea for a new bong. Would you like to talk to him?" And I said,
"Yes,
absolutely." And so, long story short, he was, he worked for the largest private housewares company in the country. He manufactured the largest stainless steel water bottle company brand, at volume, at wholesale volume in the country. And he had this idea. And basically he presented me the idea, how it would be built, how much it was going to cost to produce. And I told him straight up, like, if you make this,
I'm there.
I will be your CMO and I will help you go get the funding to make it a reality. And that's what we did. He spent the money, he did the tooling, he got the molds made, he actually produced the product. His name's Rich Gonzalez, by the way, that's my partner. And Chill was born. We actually bootstrapped the entire thing off the back of BuzzFeed and Instagram. We got enough pre-orders to get our first PO in, delivered those first 100 units to the friends and family who fronted, $100+ off of a render, and away we went. Once we got going, it was a foregone conclusion, and just to explain what Chill is, it's the world's first double wall vacuum insulated stainless steel smoking apparatus. So if you have a thermos or a Swell bottle or a Yeti bottle or any of those, and you like the way that those keep your water ice cold, the Chill does the same thing for your bong water.
I love it.
Yeah. Who doesn't like an icy cold bong rip?
Nobody doesn't like that, but generally it's not cold for so long.
Yeah, exactly. You put ice in, and a lot of people use ice catchers in the neck, and like putting ice in your bong has been something people have done forever. But yeah, it melts. You usually put it in an ice catcher in your neck. This is actually designed. You put ice into the base of it, and it'll keep it cold for up to 12 hours. Shit. Yeah. So we did an event out in Las Vegas, where we had 6 or 7 of them out on the balcony at the Cosmo. Sorry, Cosmo.
Not the Cosmo, at a different hotel.
We've already been kicked out of the Cosmo. It's fine. We had, at the end of the night, about 11 hours later, still full of ice. And it was 105 degrees outside, so it's been pressure tested, and it's
in its own environment. It's
what's funny,
it was product testing.
What's funny is I feel like most people don't even understand, like they just like the way it looks. So it comes in, we have probably about 40 different designs now at this point.
They're great looking.
Match designs.
I'm looking at them now. Sorry.
Yeah, no, the aesthetic of it is really, and then a lot of people are like, oh, I won't break this, and also it screws apart. The neck and the base come apart, and they're like, oh, that's super easy to clean. And super easy to add ice. So there's all of these things that actually, us being so obsessed with like the science aspects of it and stuff like that. You're like, but yeah, it's like a thermos. They're like, yeah, cool, that's cool.
And when we post this, we will obviously post pictures of this and where to find it. But it's really great looking. Yeah,
it turned out. I mean, honestly, it's one of those things where. It's such a serendipitous moment, and it's been such an exciting ride because, my whole goal is to apply this background that I've developed in years of advertising and professional business to helping entrepreneurs, and to have met Rich and to have produced something that turned out being so beautiful and so effective. It's, everything's 50% luck.
Yeah. It's so cool. The mix and match series with the black smoke, the Chill neck piece. Yeah. And we'll send people how to sort of find this, but it really is. It's really it goes back to sort of what you're talking about, people innovating in interesting ways.
Yeah.
To fill those needs.
And you have people who have been closeted smokers or consumers of some sort their entire life, and they've had these ideas. And they're just now feeling comfortable to come out with them, right? Another product that we back and are part owners in is a product called the Clinger, THECLINGER. And it's a little, basically a tube that hugs your lighter. So everywhere you go, you have your lighter and a king-size joint. And, it's super cute. It's very basic. It's very simple. It could... in the next 3 or 4 months, it could live in every major convenience store and gas station in America. The person behind the Clinger was a bookkeeper at a publisher. It works in the he still does today. Working in corporate finance, but he had this idea and he made it a reality. And I think more and more people are starting to bet on themselves in general in the gig economy.
Mm-hmm.
Like people are more comfortable being freelancers than getting the full-time job. And I think it's partially that. And I think it's partially the acceptance of cannabis. Like you can tell your mom that you're doing this, you know, and she'll be like, oh, that's cool. Way to get in on an early industry versus like slapping your hand.
Publishing. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Be like, I sent you to private school for all
Right.
these years.
Now you're doing this. I always knew you were a stoner.
Yeah.
No, it's really interesting. And let me ask you a question because, you know, you've been in it 2018. You see where you are now in New York. You have innovative, interesting products. You have BudsFeed. Like, what do you think? What do you think the next year or 3 or 5? Pick a time horizon. What do you think we'll be looking at, say, 5 years from now? Do you think the market in New York or product innovation or where you'll be with BudsFeed or other?
Oh, yeah. Well, my big hope for us as an industry, I'm really not super confident that legalization is going to happen. I don't think we have an administration that is going to push that really heavily, but I do believe that we have good reason to believe that we'll have something like decrim, and I think decrim changes a lot. I think it allows banks to get involved. I think it allows things to be imported and exported that are deemed illegal without being illegal anymore. And I think, you know, within the country, interstate commerce, right? Like Oregon has a lot of cannabis.
Lots of extra. Yeah.
And Montana doesn't yet, you know? And if you think about being able to fly concentrate or whatever it might be from Oregon to Montana to bolster a new market, you know, or, you know, that's just an example of like how that could go down. It's not like Northern California needs weed from Oregon,
right.
You know, Oregon or something like that. But the decrim does the majority of the job. And you know, I would be remiss to not mention like getting people out of jail.
Yeah.
Right, giving them their lives back and potentially giving them an opportunity to actually.
On-ramp,
yeah. I always. It's not a joke, but it's one of those things where it's like it's the only industry where like at least 20% of the top talent might still be behind bars. You know, like they literally can't do the job either because they're in jail or because they're on probation. Yeah. And it is their life. It's what they loved. You know, so decrim I think will change a lot for me personally. BudsFeed and Chill, we're really combining forces and we're starting a brand accelerator. And what we're focused on is identifying early stage entrepreneurs with amazing ideas. We're providing them with the marketing, manufacturing, distribution, and financial backing that they need. I find that a lot of these people who are trying to get into this industry are flying solo, and the thing that they want more than anything is a team, someone else they can rely on. They still want to own the majority of their business. They still want to be an entrepreneur, but there's things that you don't know, right? Like I've spent 15 years mastering marketing and social
figuring
media.
out things you didn't know. Yeah.
Right. My partner spent, you know, his entire life in retail and manufacturing products. You know, we have good access to factories. So, you know, what we've decided to do is figure out a way to bring those worlds together, and we're actively, like the Klinger, we're bringing in new brands who we can, you know, really help you know, bring to the next level with their business.
I just like that you said BudsFeed and Chill.
BuzzFeed and Chill. Oh, it's the best. Every time I said anytime I do a conference call with Chill, it's always whatever and chill. So the jokes write themselves.
It works. They do write themselves. Well, good for you for choosing a name and a brand that works like that. Justin, I want to thank you for coming in. It's nice to meet you face to face, and we look forward to connecting with you down the road and all the success down the line.
All right. Thank you so much, man.
You got it.
All right.
That was Justin Johnson of BuzzFeed. If you like this program, please rate and review us wherever you heard the show. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. Thanks. We're able to do what we do because of ongoing partnerships with Alterna Savings, Cannabis at Work, Cannabis Benchmarks, Ken Delta, Gallagher, Headset, and Torque and Mains. Find out all that we do at businessofcannabis.com.